Man, I've never seen so many scams as I have in this last year. And maybe it's the first time because I'm being impersonated by somebody out there. But a lot of my peers are, a lot of the industry is. But the biggest, most consistent thing that we have seen here is that they're using what looks like an email, .rtx, but then it's at Gmail or it's at Yahoo. There's links. They're requesting payment. They're requesting you to send resumes. And to be very clear, the body of these emails are very well written. Like, I've read them and I've been like, maybe I want to send my resume to this person, right?
Welcome to Security Cleared Jobs, Who's Hiring and How, the podcast for cleared professionals looking for new opportunities and career advice. We go behind the scenes with recruiters and hiring managers from leading cleared employers to uncover the information you need to make a smart career move.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome back to Security Cleared Jobs, Who's Hiring and How. My name is Bob Wheeler from ClearedJobs.Net, and today we are excited to have Michael Barnum from Raytheon and RTX business with us today. Michael has been a recruiter for over 15 years. He's currently, like we said, at Raytheon. Does a lot of work with operations, supply chain, and security stuff. You've been a previous guest on this podcast, though not with me. So welcome back to the podcast, Michael.
Thank you for having me. I love doing this. There's a lot of good outreach that comes from it. And as everybody knows, the market changes all the time. So hopefully I'm not just going to be up here repeating myself.
No, I don't think that you will. If you haven't joined us before, if you're a listener and haven't joined us before, you want to just give us a quick background about yourself, Michael, as far as your experience as a recruiter and what you're doing there at Raytheon?
The one thing I will repeat is that most people fall into recruiting. No one goes to college for recruiting. A lot of people don't grow up, thinking I want to be a star recruiter or anything like that. So I knew I always wanted to work with people. I studied psychology and education, kind of fell into recruiting like most people say. I worked at an agency for a while, which is hair on fire all the time, smiling and dialing. And then I worked on the campus side of recruitment in a tech sector and telecommunications. And then I've been with Raytheon for the last 7 going on 8 years. I've spent a lot of time in tech, a lot of time outside of technical stuff like operations, supply chain, and security, which I've been in mostly here at Raytheon. And I enjoy helping people. I enjoy coaching other recruiters and really helping people get through what is now one of the toughest job markets that we've ever seen, not necessarily because it's tough. It's just so available to everybody. And there's also the age of information where there's a lot of myths and untruths out there that I like to hopefully get addressed in a bigger way than, a simple LinkedIn post.
Yeah, that's exactly what. That's why we love having you back too, Michael. We're going to talk a little bit about Raytheon specifically. And then the second part of our talk today, we're going to get into some of the more general stuff about job seeking and the industry and things like that. Because like you said, things are changing all the time. All the time. We're going to first talk a little bit about Raytheon. What's the current hiring landscape like over there at Raytheon right now? How are things sitting?
We had an extremely busy year last year. So Raytheon RTX is comprised of Collins Aerospace, Pratt & Whitney, and Raytheon, and then our RTX corporate. Raytheon alone hired over 4,000 external hires last year, so we were busy. I think that was a little busier than we anticipated, but we've had a lot of change go on since we've had a merger for a couple of years. I think this year is going to be busier. I think this year we have a little better understanding, but between innovations in the defense field as well as need for some of the supply of the products that we already make, I think we're going to be busier than we were last year. And I think busy for TA means good. That means we're hiring more. Even there's a lot going on. So I'm excited for this year. I think we can do a lot of good.
Wow. 4,000 is a lot of people. You guys were working hard in 2025. Walk us through some of the stuff that maybe this is just for your specific section right now. What are some of the skills that that you're on the lookout for? Some premium type stuff, some of the harder to find things that kind of make a lot of work for you to find the right people. What kind of skills would those be for you?
So for my team specifically, my recruiters and my ops team, we're always looking for technicians that have clearances, security professionals with clearances, advanced manufacturing professionals. Those are all things that if you have a clearance to start, it just makes things so much easier. We can get you into programs so much faster. And they're skill sets we don't often think of. But the advanced manufacturing, the security folks, and the technicians, it's a wide range of skill sets varying from Tucson, Andover, Forest, and McKinney. So that's Tucson, Arizona, Andover, Massachusetts, Forest, Mississippi, and McKinney, Texas, where we have a lot of our factories. On outside of my team, the rest of the business is always looking for software and systems engineers who have clearances. You can imagine the systems upon systems that we have. Some of the big needs that I know are coming: real-time embedded C and C++ developers, Java, C++, and then ADA developers. So those are going to be big for us. So if we know anybody, if anybody listening has friends, refer them. We have hundreds of spots for those types of skill sets that I mentioned. And those are going to be the big needs. Obviously not everything. If you go to Raytheon Careers, you'll find thousands of jobs in varying different skill sets around the world.
Yeah. So besides the fact that Raytheon hires so many people for so many things in so many places, let's talk about some other stuff. Why Raytheon? But what else keeps people at Raytheon? We're talking to you. I know you've got a little bit of the flexibility you've touched on, but what else? How the benefits like? What's great about Raytheon?
Every time I'm asked this question, I come back to, I try to answer this for me and hope that it's a representation of the people I've dealt with at Raytheon. But answering for me, I think this place is special to a lot of people in their own ways. The most consistent why that comes up for me in conversation for myself and as I talk to others, for 7-8 years here, is that it's mission driven. Like, we really care about our end customers, which is the war fighters, which is the men and women in service. What we do matters, and people do take that seriously. We're a huge company, right? Like almost 200,000 people at RTX. But we are here for a purpose beyond profit. Of course, that's required. But some of the other aspects about Raytheon that I really appreciate as an individual is leadership's willingness to seemingly intentionally focus on listening to their employees. I've seen HR go through so many iterations of goals and trying to listen and find different ways, or experiment with certain aspects of how to help its employees, how to listen to its employees. So the effort has been so consistent. We're not afraid to try things and see things that maybe don't work out. I've been pilot for all sorts of different things here at Raytheon that some have worked, some have not. But I love that willingness to try to listen, to try to improve. I've given suggestions that have been tried, and when you speak up, you're allowed to try things that may or may not work. When you think about Raytheon, it's a lot of engineering, right? Like, we're not guessing on missiles and bombs, right? But when it comes to the people aspect of it, we don't know unless we try. So I feel I get the feedback I need to take the action I need to take, and I also feel trusted, which is huge. So salary, benefits, flexibility, like we have good benefits. And again, sometimes it's overwhelming. We have so many resources that come from our benefits. I think the biggest perk in DoD is the 980 schedule that we work. So for those that don't know what that is we work 40 hours in 9 days, and that second Friday we get off, which is huge for any type of extra relaxation, getting some things done and not wanting to take PTO. Or, some days that just means I'm going to get the kids to school and go back to sleep. Yeah. That's what I need. So there's a lot of perks. No one's going to sit there and micromanage you. We are all adults and we are treated as such. So I always go back to my why at Raytheon. It's like, I don't feel like I'm working to pay the CEO. I don't feel like I'm working for a stock price. I'm working to staff up teams to get the things done that we need to done to, and fall back on to help protect those who protect all of us.
Man, that's a tremendous answer, Michael, because I can really feel the genuineness. I mean, it was an honest answer, and I could tell by just listening to what you're saying. So let's move away from Raytheon just a little bit. I mean, we can still bring Raytheon into our examples here, but you've got so much great information. I know, like I said, you've been on our podcast before. You bring some great information to job seekers in general. So what's this current market like when we looking at cleared stuff specifically, because this is a cleared podcast? You kind of mentioned that it's a different market. It can be very competitive. What kind of frustrations are you seeing from the job seekers right now? And what are they doing to navigate the job market?
Well, the cleared market's definitely competitive. The market in general is super competitive. because jobs have never been so readily available for people to view and apply to. And I don't think people really understand that 10 years ago, you couldn't apply to 100 jobs a day. Like, it wasn't as easy as click and apply. So there's a lot of frustrations in, like, why do I have to fill this out? It's on my resume. There's a lot of frustrations with scams, which we'll talk about in a little bit too. But it's very busy and competitive. Today's job market allows people to have greater access to open jobs than ever before. So much that it's overwhelming at points. You go on, you look for a job and you're like, well, I think I could do all of these. There's 100 of these. How do I parse this down? How do I know which ones are new? Things like that. So it leads to frustration, mostly because there's a lot of great people out there that are qualified but can't seem to catch on. And that's where I think I see the most visible frustration. And I hear from people who are qualified people and they don't seem to feel like they can catch on. But what they don't see is our side of it, which is, we put up a job posting that gets 100 people, right? We have to parse that down to one.
Yeah. We
have to make a choice on one. And because it's so available, you have a lot of good people that are passively looking, or people that need a job competing, with very similar resumes, very similar backgrounds. And truth be told, a lot of people don't like hearing the feedback that somebody was a stronger fit. Somebody had more experience. You did check all of the boxes and most of the nice to haves, but there is somebody who checked all of those and got along with the team and applied before you. It's not about, beating a system. Some of it's luck and just, mass amount of candidates. There's also a lot of rumors out there that I think people want to attach themselves to, not to play victim, but because some of these myths sound so logical about, AI making decisions or recruiters not taking a resume that isn't a PDF or something like that. But ultimately it goes down to, if we interviewed everybody and talked to everybody, we would never get anything done. And it is our job to make sure that we can help build teams through talent acquisition.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of issues with the market today, and it's just hard.
Yeah, we've done a number of training sessions, especially at our job fairs. I'll host some training sessions for job seekers, and we'll be interviewing recruiters. And I tell you, when we start pulling the string for the job seekers on how busy recruiters really are, how many open requisitions are recruiters dealing with, how many things, a lot of job seekers are very maybe surprised at just how much work is going on. I mean, you kind of think, well, it's just one job. So then what we want to do for our job seekers, and maybe we can even do this a little bit now in our conversation, is we want to say to the job seekers, hey, the more you can swim with the current, the better off you're going to be. If you can go with what the recruiter's asking for, be inside the system. One of the things we see on LinkedIn, there's a lot of people that will put, open to work on their LinkedIn profile. And maybe they're going to just hit you up on LinkedIn and say like, hey, Michael posted something, and go, hey, I'm a fit, or something like that. What kind of mistakes are people making on LinkedIn, or what kind of things could they actually do things on LinkedIn that would be helpful? I mean, is it a good tool? Is it a bad tool in that regard, do you think?
I love LinkedIn because I think it's still a place for professionals to network, and obviously influencers and people, like anything with the internet, it's a bullhorn to get your voice out there. But when it comes to like a elicitation on LinkedIn, you got to think this is a sales pitch, which can be a skill or an art. If you've ever met a good salesman or a bad one, right? The one that shows up at your door for selling solar and won't walk away versus, somebody who's selling bread and you need a sandwich, right? What works for some may not work for all. So it's easiest to say what gets left behind. Again, we want recruiters and myself, we want to respond to everyone and help everyone. We really do. But when recruiters get templated, I like what Raytheon is doing. Where could I be a fit? Can we chat for 15 minutes? Can I send you my resume? And half the time it's shallow. We can tell it's insincere. I don't want to say we can tell people are desperate, because I understand, right? Copy, paste, get things done efficiently. But that's playing a numbers game. I buy a lottery ticket when you do that, because that's kind of the same approach. But when you take your time to craft a few and stay with it, I will always remember from my agency days that sales are typically made on the 12th or 13th contact. So if you reach out to a recruiter and they don't reach back out to you just once, it's, again, like you guys try to do, flip it and see what the recruiters are looking for. But I probably get reached out to 5-6 times a day for connection requests, with 2 to 3 trying to send a message. And I would love to have the conversation and help everybody out. But when I get those templated responses, I don't have the time. I really just don't. And most recruiters don't. For an insight to like Raytheon and our recruiters' desks, where we try to have them work 25 to 35 recs at a time. That's 25 to 35 hiring managers. And then say conservatively, there's 20 people on each of those recs. That's hundreds of candidates, right?
500 or 600.
So we try to do the best we can to respond. I'm not going to say this always works, but what has a better chance is spend a little bit more time, which I know is hard to do when people need a job. But the ones that I have more easily responded to or looked into, and is when somebody says, I applied to this specific job, I am looking for this person, or are there any other jobs like XYZ? I see that it opened. I got one a few weeks ago that said, I applied to this job a few weeks ago, see that it's no longer open. Are there any other roles like that? Or, can you at least just tell me the status of it? Now, if I'm not the recruiter, I'm not going to be able to give you a status, but I can tell you it does look like the posting was taken down, but they're still actively working it. So, because a recruiter is never going to give away another recruiter's information. We're never going to give away a hiring manager's information. That goes sideways real fast when we start just handing out information. But recruiters are on LinkedIn for a reason. We want to find talent, and we will sometimes share talent that we run into with hiring managers, whether they have a need today or not. Like, the best recruiters will say, this person reached out to me. They look like a fit for your org. Do you have anything coming? Take this resume, take a look at it. Now, we can't do official interviews or anything till we have a spot, till we've done our vetting. But when you're specific about it, it helps us. It makes the ambiguity of where I'm going to go next little to nothing, right? You give me a rec number, I know exactly where to go. You say, where would I fit at Raytheon? And all of a sudden, I'm out in the clouds of where to even go at Raytheon, because like I said before, there's thousands of jobs. So don't lump yourself into just hucking your resume over the fence and hoping. I would not recommend that to anybody.
So when you're talking about how tough it can be, and we all admit that the hiring market can be tough. There's scams out there. So I guess if it's one of those things, if it sounds too good to be true, maybe it is type thing. I mean, we're seeing some scams out there, a lot of employment scams. I've even seen, people posting on the job postings, different companies say, if you didn't get an email from this specific email address, it's not us type thing. What kind of things should people be looking out for as far as scams go out there?
Man, I've never seen so many scams as I have in this last year. And maybe it's the first time because I'm being impersonated by somebody out there. But a lot of my peers are, a lot of the industry is. Yeah. And what they can find on the internet is scary. I mean, I've received some of the emails that were posing as me. And I mean, they are to a T. Look like my email signature or one that I've had in the past. They've taken my picture off of LinkedIn. We work with our security teams to get those taken down. But the biggest, most consistent thing that we have seen here is that they're using what looks like an email .rtx, but then it's at Gmail or it's at Yahoo. There's links. They're requesting payment. They're requesting you to send resumes. And they're not coming from an official at rtx.com email address. And to be very clear, the body of these emails are very well written. Like, I've read them and I've been like, maybe I want to send my resume to this person, right? Because they're reaching out, pulling on people. Specifically, they're targeting open to work people, which makes the whole situation sadder. But no one from Raytheon or Collins or Pratt or RTX in the whole are going to tell you to click a link, call a number, send money. You have to pay for this. The biggest giveaway is though at Gmail or something like that. Job seekers want these outreaches to be real so bad that they follow their curiosities. And some of these messages just are so well crafted. I can't tell if they're AI or if somebody, like, it sounds like somebody coached them through this of, we love your experience. We love your attitude and your energy. I've been very thankful to the LinkedIn population for messaging me directly. Is this you? What can I do? And then sharing with me the email address that's been reached out to them, any of the content. We don't know unless we have help from others, but those are how the scams are happening. So there's still a lot of services out there that'll make promises, that'll tell you to beat the ATS and things like that. I can't support any of those, because I think they all fall into the market of, we're just looking for that easy way to get a job. And like you said, if it looks too good, if it sounds too easy, it probably is, unfortunately. And so always check, verify with people on LinkedIn, never send money, never click links. Because I've been on the other end too. I had a random recruiter I had been connected with for a while reach out and say, like, I've got a great role for you. And it led with click this link that didn't look, to me, I might have a better look at what a link looks like. And I was just like, this doesn't look right. So I reached out to that person and said, I think someone's impersonating you. And sure enough, that person was being impersonated. Had I clicked on that link on my Raytheon computer, I don't know where that would have gone.
Part of this could be an AI type thing, and that kind of leads us to, we've been asking over the past few months, especially from recruiters, what you're seeing as far as AI goes from the job seeker perspective. I mean, some of this stuff is getting very easy to say, make me a resume and those kind of things. Are you seeing things AI wise that job seekers are they making mistakes with that, or is it some ways helpful? Do you have any thoughts on AI and the job seeker?
I do have thoughts on AI, and it's I think it's kind of a moderate take on it, but I believe AI is a tool to help supplement if needed. Right now, it can do just as much harm, if not more, than good right now if we don't understand it and how we use it. ChatGPT or whatever source spits out something that looks great, but is a regurgitation of what the internet thinks a company wants or thinks a recruiter wants. But when you're going through a job process, I know it's hard sitting at the computer thinking, I'm interacting with another person. Everyone thinks you're interacting with a company and the company wants this. A recruiter is going to read your resume. A hiring manager is going to read your resume. So my advice is, if anyone's curious about it, is explore, play around, and if anything comes from it that you think is more accurate, a different vernacular or a better description of your professional work for like a resume, weave it into your work. Do not copy and paste. And I say that, this is solely my opinion, not Raytheon's opinion. I can say I have seen hiring managers that say this looks like an AI resume, whether it is or it isn't, and because they just don't understand or it's well written. And as recruiters, we have to coach around certain things. We still have to give people a chance. It's not illegal to use AI, but you are putting that into the manager's head. And we've seen mistakes in the corporate world using AI as a shortcut, right? So managers don't like to, you don't want to make a hiring manager assume you're already taking a shortcut. That's why I say weave it in, right? Like, I'm not a dictionary. I don't know the definition of how I feel all the time. And maybe that pulls up some vernacular that it just makes you feel more comfortable that you could sell yourself a little bit better. That's fine. So play around with it, have fun with it, see what comes out of it. Do not rely on it. It is not a tool that's going to all of a sudden make you more qualified.
Yeah. That's great, nuanced advice. Let's move on to salary. We're seeing some places you actually have to post salary now. Some states require it. Some places still don't. A lot more companies are doing it, but you're also starting to see the companies that do maybe it's a really wide range of everything from peanuts to solid gold bars. I mean, are you seeing that, how that's playing out, and what is that looking like on your end?
I love the salary range conversation, and it always comes up, right? Because it's where personal and professional meet, right? When we're dealing with people who need a job, because the salary affects their personal life, right? We're paying for skills and whatnot. So the best advice I can consistently give to anyone looking for a job and they start talking to recruiters is have the conversation early. Emphasis on have it. I know it's uncomfortable. I know people are like, well, negotiating, I don't want to leave anything on the table. I don't want to throw a word out first. I think the salary ranges being posted is a good thing. And some of my recruiters might want to strangle me for saying that, because it requires more conversation than of people seeing a big number and assuming, well, like, I'm most qualified for this job, I should get that. That's just not the case. And that's where a misunderstanding happens. That's where feelings get hurt, right? Like you see a number that's big and you're instantly a recruiter tells you that's absolutely not what we're going to pay you. You know, at Raytheon, the salary ranges are almost 100K wide. And even internal employees a lot of time are like, why can't I pay that? Like, that's my job. It's just because, you know, it's not cookie cutter. Everyone in the same job does not have the same skills, does not have the same productions. They might have this similar levels of responsibility and tasks that they handle, but some people have been in the role for 20 years. Does that person necessarily deserve to be paid at the bottom? Some people are just new into the role. You know, we're hiring somebody for a ceiling that they can learn sometimes in terms of like add on to what they can offer. So there's a lot of range and details that go in there. I hate when people refer to Reddit and Glassdoor and the internet and things like that, where they're like, well, I heard my friend got a 30% bump. We don't know where they came from for that, right? So when people start talking on the internet about salaries, they have these distorted views of what could happen, right? So there's a lot going on in terms of we need to understand and have an in-depth conversation. That starts with candidates knowing what they need. So before you start having those conversations, if you're casually looking for a job or if you absolutely need a job, it's okay to have a number. If you need 85 or 115 or 165, that's okay. You would rather end the conversation in the first couple of minutes with the recruiter on salary than go through an interview and say, well, like, I think I'm going to prove myself and they're going to give me 30,000 more than we talked about. It's not going to happen. And I see it all the time. We have a set range that we're allowed to pay. I would love to pay everybody $1 million if we could. But realistically, if you see a salary range 100K wide, it's not going to be at the bottom. It's not going to be at the top. Think somewhere in the middle, in that second or third quartile, depending on what equity the rest of the team is at, depending on where the market's at, what skills you bring to the table. We love you, we want to hire you does not mean we are going to throw money at you. It means we're going to make a fair competitive offer based on the conversation we already had. So you can get a bad taste in a recruiter or hiring manager's mouth when a recruiter says, hey, I talked to John Smith. John Smith is looking for 105 for this role. Most of your team is in that area, so we're good. And then John Smith gets an offer and all of a sudden he wants 130 because he's the best candidate. That's what makes it tough is I see that, you know, a candidate saying, I see this job goes up to 150. I don't need 150, but I would like 130. It's not what we talked about. And that's not a recruiter holding you back from the range at all. It's using the equity and the data that we have to make you the most competitive offer that we can. So salary range on a job is tough. It's tougher if you ignore it and don't have the conversation and aren't prepared to have the conversation.
I mean, you guys do a lot of stuff with the SkillBridge program, and if our listeners aren't familiar with that, that's an internship program from people coming out of the military. So a lot of these people, even if they're very talented, they're still kind of new to the job market, and it's an internship. And I mean, you even have salary conversations with these SkillBridge people sometimes, right? I mean, that early.
Absolutely. So we love SkillBridge, and we're trying to continue to sell the advantages of it, not only because it can lead to some great talent coming into Raytheon, but it also is a service to provide those transitioning out to get some corporate experience. So we try to be very transparent. So we don't tell them like, hey, what are you looking for? We try to coach them to what do you think you're going to need when you transition out? Because what you make in the military is not always what you make in corporate. Sometimes there's one step back to go 2 steps forward to get some corporate experience. But what we try to do is, hey, when we're working a SkillBridge internship, sometimes they don't always match up the candidate's ceiling of their skills. So we tell them, hey, the internship we have, the work that we need to be done is going to be this level role. And it's going to, you know, if we were hiring for it, we'd pay the person give or take 100K. So we don't say, is that good for you? We just let them know that. So when they come in, they can get that level of work. They can get that level of experience. They can still look for other roles if they're going to need more. But we try to, from the onset, get them set up for success. The goal with SkillBridge would be we get them into an internship and then just hire them into that role. But it doesn't always work that way. It's not always a match made in heaven, but if they do good work at that level, we take that feedback and try to market them elsewhere. But we do talk to them about salary because ultimately we want to retain them. We want to recruit these SkillBridge candidates to come out of the service to right into our role. I talked about it first and foremost, how we're mission driven. No one's closer than the folks in the service, right? But again, you got to have the conversation with salary with everybody to make, if at anything, make it less strenuous. Like, it's okay to talk about money when you're looking for a job. It's part of the conversation.
Yeah. And you talked about that. You kind of bring us up to the interview part. And we always tell people, job seekers, if you get to the interview stage, everybody that gets interviewed is basically qualified. I mean, right? You don't bring somebody to the interview stage who doesn't already meet the qualifications. So that means if you're at the interview stage, the competition is high. Maybe you're in the final 5 or 6 or 4 or whatever, but it's a little bit competitive. So what kind of things can people do? What's going to make a good interview to help you stand out in a competition like that?
Well, preparation. Yeah, I will harp on preparation all day and night because people think I'm just going to wing it. Nobody knows myself better than me. But when you're sitting in a mirror practicing, it's a little different than when someone you don't know is asking you. Someone that wasn't involved in this process is trying to poke holes in it. So being prepared, I think the term is know thyself. Know what you're good at and be confident that you're good at it. Have examples of why you're good at it. Back up your confidence. I always say this too, is there's a fine line between arrogant and confident, and you've got to straddle it. And that comes from knowing yourself, knowing your resume, your application inside out, and being able to tell a story of why you're a good fit for that role. But you don't have to prepare for an application like that. I'm talking about preparing for an interview. Look up the people on LinkedIn. Do you have any shared connections? Do you have any shared backgrounds, any companies? But practicing a quick elevator speech, the basic questions, right? Like, interviewers are going to throw random questions out there for better or worse, but tell me about yourself. You should be able to knock that out of the park without rambling or without saying, I need a job, right? Somewhere in between there. They want to fill their rec, fill those cups for them. If the job says these 3 things are required, knock those out of the park. Look at Raytheon. What else might be required or nice to have type situations is be prepared for all of those. Be over prepared. Go into with 10 questions. You might not get to ask them all. You might only get to ask 1 or 2, but be over prepared. You do 10, 15 minutes a day and it will add up to preparation. Yeah. The more you prepare, the better it will go. You can always ask for feedback and things like that, but be confident because they wanted to interview you.
Well, hey, Michael, this has been a tremendous conversation with you. You've got so much information, and we appreciate everything about talking about Raytheon, but talking about general job seeker tips and everything like that. So if anybody wanted to get in touch with you, what's the best way to do it?
So I'm on LinkedIn quite a bit. And if you're trying to contact other recruiters, try to use some of the advice, be specific. But anytime we do a virtual event or an on-site event that you can register for that is in the skill set you're looking for, even if you're not looking, it's a great time to build a network and say, like, I'm curious. Just because you show up to a hiring event and you're not actively looking, that's okay. But have a purpose, be curious so that you know in the future when you are ready. The job market changes all the time, right? COVID threw the biggest wrench in it. And since then, it's just been a tumbling hamster ball of we're hiring, we're not hiring, we're hiring, we're not hiring. And right now, I hope there's some balance, but we are going to be growing in the next year. Our recruiters are going to be busy. You can tell when hiring is good when you start seeing a lot more talent acquisition job postings because there's more recruiters. That means there's more jobs to be filled. And our team alone here is bigger than it's ever been in the best way. I think we have a really strong team who's really focused on our customers and getting the right people in the right place. So being specific will allow them less work and maybe connecting you to a more direct hiring manager that they know of that could use your skill sets now or in the future.
Sounds good. Well, hey, Michael, we appreciate your time, and we're going to let you go now. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Bob.
All right. So Michael has left the studio. I want to thank you guys for joining us on the podcast today. You know, I really enjoyed talking to Michael. He's got so much good information, and he's very well spoken in a very nuanced way. Seems to have balanced approach to things. One of the things I really picked up from him was how he talked about how his passion for Raytheon and how he spoke from, he said, this is the way I see it from where I sit. And I think that's a great tip for job seekers to ask those types of questions from the recruiters, because you got to remember the recruiters, they work for those companies too, and they're going to have a lot of good information. I thought Michael really spoke very well about that. And of course, besides the fact that they hire so many 4,000 people in 2025 with even more to come in 2026, hey, Raytheon is a good company to be looking at, and Michael's a good person to be reaching out to. So we want to thank you guys for joining us today on Security Cleared Jobs, Who's Hiring and How. If you like this podcast, give us a good thumbs up, give us a good rating, share it with your friends, and just remember that ClearedJobs.Net is a great place to be if you're looking for a great cleared job. We'll take it easy. Bye-bye.